Live from LeadFeather Studios, it's the most controversial film podcast on the air. I Don't Give a Flick!
Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of I Don't Give a Flick. I'm your host, Jonny Blackburn. You probably know me, and you're probably tired of hearing my voice, or maybe you're not, because you tuned in for another episode. With me this week, as they are most weeks, I've got...
Gary Elmore.
And...
Matthew Strand-Jordan.
And Neil Riley decided he didn't want to join us tonight because he'd rather fight with his 3-year-old daughter, trying to get her to go to bed. So, you know... Okay, Neil, we understand where your priorities lie. We got it. You know, you got a family. Thought we were your family, but okay. That's fine. Your podcast family. It's fine. He'll be on later, I'm sure. Guys, what have y'all been up to? We have not been on in the longest time. It is the start of Season 4. Bum, bum, bum. I don't know why that was so ominous sounding.
I don't know.
I mean, like, it should be a happy, positive thing that we're starting Season 4, not a negative, right?
Not according to our viewers.
What?
Wait,
what?
Yeah.
What?
All the hate mail that we get?
What
yeah.
did they say? What? Harry, what are you talking
they
about?
hate us. They hate us so much.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow.
And with
What?
and with good reason.
And with good reason,
apparently.
yes.
The only people that listen to this fucking show are Matt's sister and my mom. So,
Ciao.
you know, shout out to, what's your sister's name? Megan?
Megan, yeah.
Megan, okay. Shout out to Megan. Shout out Martha. And I'm lying. My mom totally does not listen to this show. So it's just your sister. We have one listener. And in fact, we are doing this show solely for your family. So Strand Jordans, this is for you. This episode is dedicated to the entire Strand Jordan clan. Okay?
The Strand clan.
Gary, do we have a Patreon? Can people donate to us if they want to? If they like our content?
I believe we do, yeah. It's patreon.com/LeadFeather, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool. Why don't you guys go on and donate, you know? Smash that like button.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot, just 10,000, 20,000, you know, whatever you can spare.
Yeah, even $1. I mean, I just need to eat this week. I haven't had lunch since Tuesday. It's fucking Friday.
It's a real problem because Gary and I have been discussing that Johnny's definitely the one we're going to take down first.
Sure.
You know, it's weakest, you know, it's going to be an easy cleanup too. He's not very big, so there's not going to be blood.
Well, hang on. I'm now very confused about what we're talking about. Are you talking about killing me and eating me, or are you're talking about getting rid of me? Originally, I thought you were just gonna like take me off the show, but now it sounds like you're gonna like dispose of me.
Killing you and eating you? What are we on, marijuana?
Bum bum bum. What a perfect segue into the topic of tonight's episode.
Cannibalism.
I really felt like
The Green Room. What did y'all think of it? No.
I really feel like people don't. And are you Green Room or Green Inferno? You talking about the?
Yes, yeah.
The Eli Roth one where
Yeah.
the cannibals in Brazil. Okay, yeah, or South America. I feel like you're
Hammer.
guys. Stoner films, not drugs and films, not the evolution of pot in movies or in Hollywood, but stoner films. Films that stoners watch. Films that are made for stoners, viewed by stoners, loved by stoners, and...
Stoned by stoners.
Stoned by stoners. I don't know how you stone a movie, but I could stone a DVD, I guess.
Yeah.
So, you know what, Matt? This was actually your idea, and it was a good idea, because this is going to be coming out right before 420. So shout out. We hope to get a lot of likes. Why don't you give us a little segue into this? What brought this to the forefront of your mind?
Well, you know, Johnny, it's interesting you asked that. When I went to college, I went to pursue my higher education at the University of Colorado.
Higher education.
And I was there the year that pot became legalized. So...
Hell yeah.
So I've spent some time doing research on multiple of these movies, seen them multiple times, multiple sessions, multiple joints, multiple bong rips. It's just one of those things that keeps coming back. There's a reason people get out and celebrate 420. It's a communal aspect. That's kind of the nice thing about these movies is, you know, every stoner you can talk to, you may never have met them. You could bring up one of these movies and they go, oh, bro, I love that movie. And then it creates a bond. And I think that's what really helps this community keep going forward when it comes to stoner comedies.
Hell yeah, absolutely. And like any subgenre or subgenre of a subgenre, if you're a constant listener to this show, you know that there's a lot of subgenres and a lot of crossovers. There's a community behind all of them. And whether it's the stoner films, or it's the movies so bad they're good, or it's the slasher films with really disgusting scenes where they eat human flesh, but that's your thing, there's a group for it. It's like the old saying, there's a porn for it, there's a group for it. There really is, like, all joking aside.
Is that an old saying? There's a porn for it?
It may not be an old saying, but it is a thing now. You've never heard, like, on the Reddit threads where they say, if you think it up, there's porn for it.
If Rule 34? Yeah.
Yeah, Rule 34, yeah.
Jonny, when you say it's an old saying, it's like something my grandfather would have sat me down.
Your grandfather might have. You don't know.
Porno for that.
You might have been stoned. You might have been high, man. Whoa, man.
It is possible.
Hey, you ever seen the back of a $20 bill on weed?
I have not.
Gary, it's from fucking Half Baked. Jon Stewart. Come on, man. You're killing me. And there's a sniper in the woods. Or a sniper... What was it? There's a sniper in Lincoln's bedroom or something? There's a scene in Half Baked where they're delivering, like, really good pot to a bunch of people, and so Jon Stewart is one of the guys they're delivering it to. He's just a regular, average, everyday dad. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, you ever seen he's like, everything is better on weed. And he's like, look at the back of this $20 bill. It's better on weed. And look, right here in this window at the back of the White House, there's an assassin getting ready to shoot Lincoln. And it just gets really strange. It's a weird scene, but it's hilarious.
Okay, well...
that's what it's from.
Okay, Half Baked.
Half Baked. And that's actually one of the episodes we'll be discussing this evening.
Which is 1/4 as good as a twice-baked potato.
Wow. Indeed it is, Gary. Let's define a stoner movie.
Okay,
How
that
about
sounds
we do
good.
that? That sounds great. Matt, since this was your idea, you're going to get to go first. Give us your opinion on what a stoner movie requires. What variables does it need?
So a stoner film has to embody the spirit of, kind of the 60s culture of, like, I don't care. Like, a lot of them open with a guy that's at a job that he doesn't like, a la Pineapple Express, or he doesn't mind doing that job, but it's a job where he can do it high, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I do think showing people smoking weed is kind of a prerequisite for this to be a pot movie or a stoner comedy.
Given.
It doesn't have to be egregious necessarily like it is in Pineapple Express. It could be more subtle like it kind of is in... I actually, it's never subtle in any movies. I guess Tenacious D is my go-to answer there, because it's kind of referenced that the culture of that movie itself is very stoner, psychedelic-ass to it, but it's not necessarily a pot movie or a stoner comedy. It is more of just like a movie you watch while you're high. So there's some movies that are within that bubble, and then other movies outside of that bubble that still fit within that atmosphere.
Yeah, okay.
Or do I sound baked? I don't know.
Gary, what about you, man? This isn't an area you're as familiar with. So
No. I would, I guess, say that a stoner film is any film in which there is a lot of use of marijuana, and that is sort of one of the main driving motifs of the film. So you'll think about films such as, like, Cheech and Chong's, which is... it was a comedy film in the 70s, I think. About like their whole pursuit was to, like, smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah. They're usually typically portrayed as bums, lazy, And by the end of the film, they typically have changed that narrative, but at the start of it, absolutely. For me, I think I don't really want to piggyback off what you guys already said, because I completely agree. I think all of those are prerequisites for a stoner film. I think it's a big thing about, like evading authority, I think, is a big one for it. You see in a lot of stoner comedies outside of the lazy, lackadaisical nobodies, they're always running from the cops, or they're always running from some authority figure, whether it's a disapproving father, or it's a nosy neighbor, or a really pretentious girlfriend, or the cops, or a teacher, whatever it is. They're always trying to evade authority. Even in Cheech and Chong, you still see them running from it. So I feel like that's probably my biggest prerequisite for it. And then obviously a ton of weed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I have actually... How many of those Cheech and Chong movies did they make, Matt? Do you remember?
I think there's like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I remember there being a bunch. I remember seeing the first 2, I think. Either way.
Yeah, because there's the first one when they're in the car, right?
Yes.
It has been so long since I've seen that movie. It's probably been like 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen any others but the first one.
There are 9 films.
9?
Damn. 9? Wow.
Up in Smoke, the Cheech and Chong next movie, Nice Dreams. Things are tough all over. It came from Hollywood, still smoking. And it just keeps going.
When was the last one made?
They're both still alive, so I don't know. I guess it's been a while probably since they've done one.
I mean, there's an animated movie they made in 2013, Cheech and Chong's animated movie.
Okay.
Talk about trying to squeeze the last bit of money out of an IP.
Yeah, a little bit. Might have to give that a shot.
Yeah, 37 years later.
Oh my God. Jeez. Well, while we're talking about Cheech and Chong, another good segue into the history of stoner films. Matt, you went ahead and put together kind of like a list of the quintessential stoner movies that hit on really the main high points of stoner comedies and stoner films over the last, 90 years. Why don't you take us through kind of a quick run through of them and what they meant, like their societal impacts and things of that nature?
Yeah, well, it all starts with Reefer Madness, film from 1996. I think of it as a public service announcement where they're like, if you smoke weed, you're going to become an axe killer, and it was just kind of scare. But it's so ridiculous because it is such a product of its time. It's got some interesting statements in there. Let me leave it at that. But it portrays it as a dangerous drug that leads to insanity, violence, and promiscuity. Like, that's a bad thing. Everybody wants to get laid, but it's gained kind of a cult following because it's so ridiculous. Like, at 420 events, you'll see, like, if you were to go to a bunch of stoner movies, they'll usually have that listed because it's so far-fetched and so ridiculous that that kind of was the start. It wasn't necessarily a stoner movie, but it's a movie about pot, and it just by how it is and like the impact it was trying to make and the intended audience is not what they thought. It's actually people that are smoking marijuana to watch the movie. So it's kind of a fun little thing like that. And then I would say kind of the next bigger one is part of the counterculture movement that was going along in the late 60s, early 70s. And it's Easy Rider. Now, it's not a super prevalent aspect of the film. They're just kind of smoking it every now and then. But that was a really outside the studio system movie at the time.
And
really
they were evading authority. It's the same thing I was bringing up earlier. They're fighting the man.
Yeah, so it's an interesting choice because it's outside the studio system, which is a big gamble back in that era as well. So that could be they're gonna have I can't remember Christian Movies of America or whatever the group that determines if Catholics or Christians should go see this movie. I mean, which that was a big deal back in the day because that was a huge portion of America. So to kind of push the envelope in that sense, to do something like that, I would say was kind of a big influence on just the acceptability of seeing it on screen.
Yeah. Gary, you actually, you've seen that one actually a fair amount, Easy Rider, right?
I think I've seen it once, yeah.
Oh, okay. What's your take on it?
I guess I thought more of it as kind of a motorcycle renegade movie than I would have a pot movie so much it's more like a, I don't know, kind of an adventure countercultural movie. I wouldn't have put it in a pot genre, but I guess, Matt, that does make sense the way you kind of described it. I mean, they do.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's not what I would think of as a stoner movie, but I feel like it deserves to be talked about just a little bit because it did push, Reefer Madness, they were they're only showing it on camera because they're telling you not to do it. This was more of a movement of acceptance that came with that cultural change in the late 60s, early 70s. So I just wanted to give it, it's a great movie. People don't really watch it. So I just wanted to give it a shout out.
Of course.
Well,
Let's backtrack real quick to the Reefer Madness. I don't want to just brush past that so quickly. That really is. That was the start of, propaganda, public service announcements and stuff. That was at least the first one I know of that was a massive national-wide attention, with the exception of maybe, I guess Orson Welles' War of the Worlds wasn't a PSA or anything, but
no.
It was the first.
Some people
where mass hysteria,
it as one.
right. But where mass hysteria ensued, after something had been announced, kind of thing. So Gary, you were bringing up some interesting points about it earlier.
It spawned a musical, I believe, in the 70s or 80s.
Mm-hmm. Reefer Madness,
Yeah.
Reefer Madness. We were singing that earlier. We just remember the chorus, though.
What was that, Matt?
I had no idea that was a thing. That's amazing.
It's actually not the worst movie. It's way better than the 1936 short film that they had.
Yeah.
It's way better.
I don't know necessarily how popular that movie was in terms of like how many people actually went and saw Reefer Madness in 36 when it came out. So I don't know if it's like, kind of had the huge societal impact that they were looking for in regards to it, though.
Yeah. Really, I mean, if you think about it, Reefer Madness, it had a lasting impact that lasted 60 years, maybe more. I mean, we look at when we were growing up, all three of us, when we were kids in the 90s and early 2000s, all those dope and like the Dare ads that used to come out, or like there was that really famous one where it was the dog talking to the kid and he was like, "Man, I really miss my friend. You're not my friend when you smoke pot. You're a complete stranger." And then the dog like walks off. And I was thinking to myself as a teenager, if pot made my dog talk to me, where the fuck is my purple kush? Like, roll me up a J right now. I want to talk to my dog. This is terrible marketing.
Even if your dog didn't like you?
That'd be fine. I don't care. I've got a talking dog, Gary. I'm a fucking millionaire.
He doesn't want to talk to you,
I'm a
though.
millionaire. Who cares?
But it's only in your head. It's your madness.
No.
Reefer Madness.
No, Reefer Madness.
Yes.
So, but my point being with those commercials and stuff is you still saw those for 60, 70 years after the original PSA came out. Mm-hmm. Nowadays we don't see any of that. You don't see you see stuff for don't smoke e-cigarettes, but you don't see anything for pot nowadays. You don't see anything for drugs. I
think they still have quite a strong...
I'm telling you, man, I from me personally, I've got the Hulu Live TV thing. I'm watching multiple channels, like live cable channels every day. I don't see... It's been years since I've seen one. Mm-hmm. Years.
I wonder if that's because of the more accessibility and accuracy and targeting of ads, because they're like, a person of your age is probably not going to want to see an anti-pot ad. Whereas if you had Hulu
you also have
Kids.
to remember with the anti-pot stuff, there's not really an anti-pot movement anymore because it's legal in so many states now, state-wise.
Yeah.
I was actually going to talk about that as someone that lives in legal marijuana. I personally haven't seen any TV ads, but I don't pay for cable, so that's probably why. But I've never seen anything come up on Hulu or like that. But you will see the billboards,
Sure, just see the billboards, sure.
It's a little bit more eloquent than that, but it's this, I'm happy as someone that lives here, I am happy that they show that, because you are driving intoxicated driving under the influence, I should say. So it's one of those I'm happy they have it. Hey, if I want to go buy a joint, I can. Just consume responsibly. I mean, that's really what it's all about anyway. But
yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, it's one of those things that, without getting into a whole moral and ethics conversation and whatnot. Yeah, it's how many times do you know someone overdosing on marijuana and dying, or getting so high that they ran someone off the road or slammed into somebody's car? It doesn't happen.
Yeah, but
I will say I do have a fun story about why driving high is dangerous. Obviously, in my time in college, marijuana was flowing around. It was being burned.
It's Colorado. It's Colorado. Yeah, lots.
I had someone I knew. I'll save their names for their own safety, but buddy went to pick up day, and so I lived on a frontage road. There was a double stop sign and then a traffic light. So he goes through the first stop sign, stops, goes through it, and then he's just sitting at the second one, and I look over at him. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm waiting for it to turn green." I was like, "Well, the light's up there, so you're waiting for the stop sign to turn green." So, kids, if you're gonna consume, do it at home in your safety. Just don't drive. It's not a good idea. So, that's just a little life lesson that I can show you, where my life wasn't necessarily in danger, but I made him get out of the car and switch. I told him to get the fuck out of the driver's seat. So.
Yeah, definitely don't give his name out. That's fun.
Yeah.
Was it Jonny?
Huh? Was it who?
Was it Jonny?
Me? I didn't go to college with Matt.
It was, in fact, not Jonny.
Oh, okay. All right.
This time.
Matt and I, although it seems like Matt and I have been friends for years, we've actually only known each other for about 3 years. Seriously. Actually, 2.5. I think it was end of 21 when we met.
That might be true, yeah.
So, anywho.
Counting the days, I guess, Johnny.
Counting until it's over. No, I'm kidding. So, yeah, and, obviously, I think that Reefer Madness became a cult classic in the fact that it's talked about and it's parodied, not necessarily that people watch it religiously every year. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. There might be a group of people that do that. I just haven't seen them do that. What do y'all think?
I've never seen anyone have a Reefer Madness party.
But it's like it is a cult classic, but I think it's more a cult classic in title than it is in actual content.
Yeah, like you don't see like at like Alamo Drafthouse, like the same thing you would with like Transylvania 65000 or something.
Right, exactly. Or 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Clockwork Orange, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Very true. Yeah. With Easy Rider, yeah, it's. I think we kind of we hit that one. I definitely see what you mean as far as the anti-establishment for the stoner films. I guess it's been a while since I've seen that. I don't recall a ton of marijuana usage, but I'm sure there was. Like I said, it's been a minute since I've seen it.
It's like smoking cigarettes. It's kind of like equated to that. Like I mean, it's been a minute since I've seen it as well, but I do believe there is a moment where they're like casually talking about smoking grass, as they call it. So it's one of those like, it's just talking about it on screen, making it more socially acceptable, or just like maybe it even adds to the cool element before legalization happens. I'm on the outskirts of society, adding up to that element of like, I'm cool, I'm different, which is why I start smoking marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So next on this list of ours, we've got Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke. This one is definitely not up for debate. This is probably, if you're going to go, I don't know about Mount Rushmore plus one of the best stoner movies, but as far as the quintessential stoner movies, this is definitely up there. Matt, take us a little, kind of like, was this the sequel? Or was this the third? This wasn't the first one, was it?
Up in Smoke, I think, is their first one.
Was it the first one? Okay. God, it's been so long, and I've seen so many of them, like, all mixed together. Give us kind of a breakdown of this one. I mean, obviously, this was a huge success commercially, and obviously really brought the stoner comedies to the forefront as an actual subgenre people would want to go see. Give us a little of that.
Yeah, it's helped because, stoner comedies are interlaced with the comedians in them. Sure. And, I think this is kind of the first one. These guys had a bunch of comedy albums. Dave's Not Here, Man. People know that even if they're not familiar with Cheech and Chong, it's kind of made its way into the cultural zeitgeist. So I think that's kind of what really helps this. It was the first of that kind of like, hey, we're two comedians. Give us some money. We're going to make a movie. We're going to make it our way. We're going to make people laugh. And, they're driving a van built of marijuana across the border. So, it's got everything you want it to be. It's got the stupid like humor where they're just so big they don't even know what they're doing. They're smoking joints that are, the size of a Subway sandwich, and that's kind of what makes it so. The humor may not translate as well to modern audiences, but I would still give it a watch because it is that quintessential stoner film, that one you want to see, the one that people talk about and tell their friends, hey man, get a blunt, smoke it up, enjoy that.
Yeah, and like the, I guess the over-exaggerated nature of the film in a lot of ways lends to that comedic element. I think a lot of, it's almost like slapstick dope use, I guess. One could put it that way. I did put it that way.
Yeah, I would put it that way.
Yeah.
Johnny?
I have not seen this in a while, so I actually don't think I can comment on it. Outside of Cheech and Chong being what we talked about, the quintessential smoking duo. When you think about like the celebrities that you'd like want to smoke a J with or something before you die, Willie Nelson, Snoop Dogg, Cheech and Chong, probably those four, I would say, at least for me. Like those are the guys that when you think celebrities who smoke weed, those are the four faces that pop into my mind.
Yeah, I would say that like in terms of like the stoner films, like Cheech and Chong is the I Ching of that.
I think you're right.
It's
you know what?
The top one you think of.
What's the craziest thing about it? This may be the only stoner movie franchise, with the exception of Harold and Kumar.
I guess, franchise, are we saying more than two movies?
Correct.
Well, I guess where do you think Ted fits into that? Because they have 2 movies and a TV show now.
I don't know if I would Man, it is kind of a stoner movie. I don't know if I would consider Ted a stoner movie, but I also would, like, you could make definitely a good argument for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, cause,
classify Ted as a stoner movie. I mean, the opening scenes is them smoking a bong together.
No, I know. But if we did, here's the thing. This is the trick that we run, and we run into this on every episode that we do. Gary's rolling his eyes right now because he knows what I'm about to say. Is that there's so many different movies where they're smoking weed at the beginning, or they smoke. Maybe there's like 5 scenes they smoke in. Like, would you consider all of those to be stoner movies? I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying, like, there's a line, and where do you draw it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, because weed isn't the impetus for the plot in Ted as it is in, like, Cheech and Chong. I guess if you were going to, like, it's when they get on, like, a coke bender at the party.
Pot is the reason that Ted and John hang out, and it is the reason that Mila Kunis's character does leave him.
No, it's because
it starts it. I know he goes on the coke bender.
It's a gateway drug, so yeah, I guess you're right in that point.
But that started it, and then over time, it got worse.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, I would argue that it is.
Well, hang on. Weed? No, I'm disagreeing with you on that one. It is not a gateway drug at all. But what I'm saying is, for him, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it really just depends on the person.
Sure.
Too. Because I know tons of people that smoke weed that don't do anything else.
A stoner film because it's about a guy that's just getting baked with his teddy bear and needs to grow up, and I think that's something, you can't smoke pot heavy forever. And that's just kind of one of those things that life comes along. You're younger.
Willie is the exception to that rule. Snoop Dogg stopped, actually. Mm-hmm. He's done.
Yeah,
well, that's what he said.
Like, there comes a point where you just grow out, in a sense. Like, sure, you do consume from time to time. I mean, that's me. But it's one of those, like, I used to smoke almost every day, and now, I just have aged out of it. And I think that's kind of an experience that some stoners would relate to in that film. So I think that kind of helps elevate it to that stoner I mean, it's really stupid, crass humor, too, which is in most stoner comedies, if I might add.
Yeah.
So I saw it in theaters when it came out, and that theater did not smell like it wasn't for that audience. I mean, there were people coming in just reeking of marijuana. Some Reefer Madness was going on in that theater. I mean, it was so bad. They actually gave out a promotion for Axe at the same time. Shout out to Axe body wash that was Ted themed. So they knew the audience was going to smell and needed to clean up afterwards. So
how wonderful.
So moving towards, we jump ahead we were going to jump ahead about 20 years. I do want to mention really quick in between, I know Half Baked is next up on your list. I do want to throw in there that I do feel like Dazed and Confused should be mentioned, and Friday should also be mentioned. These were 2.
The Rebecca Black song?
I'm sorry?
The Rebecca Black song?
Yeah, Johnny, I don't see your point in Friday.
The Rebecca Black song.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Oh!
Gotta get down with Friday.
No, that's not what I mean.
I finally got the joke. Congratulations.
With Friday, the entire day is about them being stoned. I mean, the movie is about Craig getting fired from his job, not having anything to do, so he decides to smoke weed with his buddy, and then shenanigans ensues. Ends up learning how to become a man. I mean, that was actually one of when I first started smoking weed back in college. Like, that was one of the first films I ever watched, and was like, I've oddly enough connect with this in a weird way. It's also a hood film technically, and a very good one at that. So that part I wasn't able to connect with. I've never lived that life. But the other side I was able to. Just like you have nothing to do at all for an entire day. You're bored as hell. It's you and your buddy. Just smoke a couple J's and just have some fun and relax because it's your day off and it's not a big deal. And so I was able to match with that. And then, Dazed and Confused, I mean, I don't know, just kind of feel like growing up in high school in Texas, even though that was supposed to be based in the 70s, I mean, we were still going to parties like that and stuff later down the line, like, our junior and senior years and stuff. So I was able to, those 2 in particular really resonated with me.
Okay.
And so I appreciated their little culture references. What do you guys think? I mean, have you guys seen both those, Friday and Dazed and Confused?
I've seen both of them. Yeah, I would agree with Friday. I mean, like you said, it is the plot. You ain't got shit to do. So, like, that's kind of one of those things, too, where it's like, I'm going to get you high. It plays into it.
Because he ain't never been high before. He's like, I never smoked before.
Gary, do you
have a what?
Do you have a joint?
Do I have a joint? I've got a joint at my elbow, at my kneecap. I'm full of joints. What can I tell you?
You're so full of bad jokes.
Yes. I up for my segue.
Do I have a joint?
No, Jonny, do you have a joint?
Shit, I know this is like triggering me to say some line from something, but I'm blanking. No, I don't.
The movie you just talked about.
I know, but I don't remember the exact line. Like, you're gonna have to help me out here. Like I just said that.
Oh, it's just a no, and it'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Oh no, that's from Dazed and Confused. I was thinking Friday. Okay. Yeah. Be a lot cooler if you did, man. Yeah, that's true. God, I feel so lame. I'm so lame. I miss my own movie.
But no, I have not seen either of those movies. Although I have seen, I think, a bit of Dazed and Confused with you when you were watching it one day. They were at like a party in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was shot at over by Moon Tower Saloon, actually, in South Austin. I know it's a bar now, but 40 years ago it was open
It was a field.
It was an open field.
Yeah.
All right. Harold and Kumar go to White Castle? No, Half Baked. That's where we're at. Matt, give us a little info on Half Baked. Jesus.
It's a comedy starring Dave Chappelle. This comedy follows a group of friends who embark on a series of misadventures to raise bail money for their friend who was arrested for killing a police horse after feeding him junk food. And they do this. How do they raise the money? One of them happens to work at a lab where they're doing marijuana testing, so he starts stealing pounds and pounds of it to deliver across town, and that leads to shenanigans with other drug dealers and people alike. So it's a really interesting movie just because obviously I'm a big Dave Chappelle fan. So he obviously king of comedy, kind of, in my opinion. I think he's the greatest of his generation. But this is like kind of young Dave still finding the voice that we know him as today. But he knew his target audience at the time would enjoy this. I think it's still a pretty funny comedy. It does a good job of lampooning the stoner culture, with you've ever seen the back of a dollar bill on weed, or just, it has these little quintessential moments. There's a moment with Snoop Dogg in it where he shares the joint with Snoop Dogg, and he's talking about how there's people that he takes a hit and he wants it back, and he goes, I haven't even hit it yet, and he keeps hitting it. So it's something that, people that smoke marijuana, in the culture aspect of that, they really kind of get a good kick out of it, because they know that friend that won't pass the joint. They know that guy that's like getting super introspective, and you're like, hey man, we just started smoking. Let's play some video games before we start talking about life. So, I think that's kind of why it stood the test of time. I mean, there's a lot of stoner movies out there, but this is one that, and having Dave Chappelle being so recognizable too, it's a good gateway film into the stoner comedy.
Mm-hmm. I will say that Snoop Dogg seems to have made himself quite a modest career out of just appearing in movies solely to be comedic, like in terms of marijuana, like what's the Starsky and Hutch, where he's like talking like he's pretending to be like some guy on a golf course, and he's like talking about the grass and everything, and the guy's like, you know a lot about golf. He's like, I know even more about grass.
It's funny you say that, because he's been in so many. He's like, he shows up for like a day to smoke weed and get paid. Like, dude, got to figure it out. I mean, obviously great musician in his own right as well, and rapper, but it's just one of those things where it's like, hey man, that's a nice niche to have. You show up, you bring your own weed, they probably pay for, he's probably got it in a writer that they got to have weed on set for him. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those. I'd never thought about that, Gary. That's so true that he has made a career out of and then, he transitioned all of these scenes in pop movies and stuff. Mm-hmm. A game show to hanging out with Martha Stewart. Now he's given up the Reefer. So it's kind of an interesting career path for him, I will say.
Yeah, because he was also in King Kong Ain't Got Shit on Training Day, wasn't he? He was one of the informants. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's really parlayed that into quite a bit of success, I would say.
Yeah.
So go ahead. What'd you say?
Have you seen Half Baked?
I have not, but it seems interesting that the show, much like kind of like Cheech and Chong's, and somewhat also like Ted is sort of like an adventure movie, like because they've got to go do something. Like Cheech and Chong have to like travel a long way, and Half Baked they've got to like be mules and take these drugs across town. So it seems to be like.
Follow up your point too. I mean, Harold and Kumar, their quest is for White Castle.
Yeah.
So that is kind of an interesting through line that in Pineapple Express they're trying to find this, understand why they're being hunted too. So it is, they always go on these misadventures, and I think that comes back to like that first relatable experience. There's some senior pot smokers, but everyone kind of remembers their first time smoking weed. And if you ever went somewhere and you have that taboo of like, oh, I'm high out in public, especially if you're first time smoker and that's kind of your forte, or you're like a suburban kid that's not supposed to be getting into trouble, and this is your first sign of rebelling, and you travel to somewhere like a sandwich shop or something to get some food, or it feels like a journey. So I think that's kind of why that keeps coming up in stoner films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like almost Lord of the Rings-esque in terms of the magnitude of the journey, even if it's just across town.
Especially in their minds.
Yes. Only in their minds, really.
Yeah, only in their minds. That's true. They're really going like 200 yards.
Yeah.
That's true. But, Johnny, what is your opinion of Half Baked?
Oh, man. Half Baked was, that scene with Jerry Lewis still gets me every single time. They're like they're smoking, and then they're standing in that corner store, and then he was like, I hear Jerry Lewis, and it's like he's playing inside my mind. Goes inside his ear canal, and Jerry Lewis is playing his guitar. Oh, my God. Oh, man. Just the quintessential, the peak of Dave Chappelle was probably a couple years later, but
yeah.
As far as his movies go, I mean, that was definitely the best one. I can't recall, did he have any other films that he starred in that came? He's been in other movies, but I don't recall any that he starred in. And while we're double checking that, I'll fill the dead air with some dulcet tones from my voice.
Oh, no. Please check faster, Matt.
Check faster, Matt.
I wouldn't say starring. I think he's kind of figured out that his niche is more of like he can do good character work. Like he's good in A Star Is Born, the new one.
Yeah, he was.
So it's part of it. I think is he's just kind of like I don't need to be in front of the camera. I don't need to be the main character. People know I'm funny. I mean, I feel like he's more likely to write a movie than he will be to star in one. I think that's kind of where he's at this stage.
He was also in You've Got Mail.
He was Tom Hanks' best friend. Yeah, I forgot about that. I think
he's great. And sorry, I just want to shout this out too. I mean, he's great in Robin Hood Men in Tights as a Chew.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Bless you.
God. See, bless you. Yeah.
First film, and they trusted him with a lot. To be honest, as a young comedian, 1990. I mean, he's playing opposite of
Cary Elwes.
Yeah, Cary Elwes and
Cary Elwes. Yeah.
And then
you
Tom
kind of
Hanks
remind
and
me
Meg
of Cary
Ryan,
Elwes, actually.
That's
like, that's Mel Brooks, man. That's like the Godfather of comedy too, like comedy movies in a sense. So it's one of those like, hey, if he thought you're funny, that was a good sign that he was going to be really funny for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Half Baked, I felt probably did, at least from our generation, did the best job of capturing where stoner culture was at the time. Friday was a little before us. Obviously, Cheech and Chong, Dazed and Confused, way ahead of our time. But I think for Half Baked, Half Baked and like How High, and there were a couple others that came out in the 2000s that were just like silly and like just like goofy, these ridiculous stoner films, but they did encapsulate what society was at the time, and like the music we were listening to, the style we were dressing at, and it really played into that. Really made fun of it a lot, and I just I appreciated Half Baked for that. I feel like the humor for it, personally, I think it's probably the funniest stoner movie for me. I mean, Pineapple Express is probably my favorite. God, see, Friday's up there too. That's tough. I'd still say that Half Baked would be the funniest. I don't know about my favorite, but funniest, I would have to say.
Maybe it's just me. I've seen it a lot too, but I fucking Grandma's Boy just tickles me.
Grandma's Boy's up there. Yeah, that's one that.
It's such I love the movie obviously, but it is a very stupid movie. I mean, there's a monkey with nunchucks. The guy has a lion that guards his weed. Like, it's just so stupid, but like it works for the audience that is been smoking a little bit too much.
This is the audience. Where did you get your weed, man? From you, Dante. Oh, yeah. What's up, Mr. Cheezel?
So
he just comes to the door naked. Like, why? Why would you answer the door naked when you have a business out of your home? And what the cool thing about this too was it was Happy Madison. Grandma's Boy was Happy Madison Productions, Adam Sandler's production company. And if you go back and look at it, most of the main characters, or a lot of them, are people that are typically supporting roles in a lot of his films because they're like the people he grew up with. Like that's the group that he has. The lead actor, dang it, what is his name? Alec. Damn it.
Baldwin.
No, come to me at some point. But anyways, like him, he's typically one of the he's usually the antagonist or like the best friend in most of Adam Sandler's movies. The guy who plays Dante, he's in all of them too. He's usually a really small supporting role. The guy who plays his roommate that's addicted to the Filipino hookers at the very beginning. Rob Schneider makes a cameo. David Spade is in the middle of it. He's he's Shiloh, the waiter at the vegan restaurant.
Hell, got Jonah Hill in it.
Yeah, Jonah Hill's in it for like the majority of the movie. He gets to suck on a titty, and that's a beautiful pair of titties, by the way. I was 18 when I first saw those, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'd like to see a pair of titties like that. And then I realized they were fake, and she's a porn star, so yeah.
But
never seen a pair of titties like that. But that's one man can dream.
It's a great stoner film, but I do want to shout out Doris Roberts, man. She's such
a dear sweetheart, such a gem.
When I think of my own grandma, like that is exactly kind of like they nailed that aspect of just that, elderly figure that's like, hey, you're just living your life and I'm just here to help, and, I loved her so much, and she's a great comedian herself. So
you remember Doris Roberts, Gary, the mom from Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yes. Yeah.
She was the grandmother in Grandma's Boy.
Yeah.
But actually, when I first started smoking, it was like the summer after my senior years when I really got into it. And a couple buddies of mine and I, we would drive to like these baseball fields we used to play at T-ball when we were kids, and we just drive into a field, park the van, and break out my buddy's DVD player and watch Grandma's Boy or Super Troopers. Like literally for an entire summer, like that's what we did every night after we got done eating dinner. We would just go and watch one of those movies. And Super Troopers is another one that I would want to throw up there as at least movies that are better when you're stoned. I don't know necessarily about being a stoner movie. But You Boys Like Mexico, you is always going to be better when you're high.
The next person says shenanigans, we're going to pistol whip them.
Yeah. Hey, Farva, what's that place you like with the mozzarella sticks and the frilly shit on the wall? Shenanigans? Oh, God.
The second one was not as good.
No, the second. We saw that together, didn't we?
I think we did.
I think we saw it at Westgate. Yeah, that was bad. Weren't they like chasing a bear through the woods or something? Like at a log. It was like one of those log treat centers, centers or something.
Logging camps, I think.
Camp.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't know. I don't know. I think we hit like the quintessential movies themselves. What about films that are better when you're high? It doesn't have to be a stoner movie necessarily. It can just be a movie that is aesthetically beautiful. It can be, one that's just going to be really fucking funny. You know what I've never done in my life? I've never watched The Room stoned. I feel like I'd like to do that one time. Just to do it.
Yeah.
I've never tried it. I really haven't. I don't watch a lot of movies so bad stoned because I'd be so confused. Because they're already confusing as it is. I mean, Gary, you can attest to this. We watch so many that the storylines are so fucking convoluted that you can never keep up. Mm-hmm. And we're stone cold sober when we're watching them. Like we still can't keep up. Like it's still ridiculous. It's super hard. Oh my, I don't know. Matt, what's one you'd like to?
A Neil Breen movie.
Oh
Stone.
my god! Oh no! Oh god! Oh, Twisted Pair. Can you imagine watching Twisted Pair just ripped? You wouldn't. You might cry out of pure fear because your entire life is crumbling beneath you. You can't fathom what's going on. God, I just hate Neil Breen so much. Why do we watch his movies?
Oh, he's not a great
Matt,
filmmaker.
What do you think? You had a couple DVDs out earlier of some stoner movies, I guess. Were those? I mean,
I've kind of talked about all the ones I pulled.
Oh, okay. Were there any that popped up that just were better when you're high? Not necessarily a stoner movie, even.
Yeah, see, you got me thinking with the visual aspect, and I'm trying to think, like, what have I really enjoyed visually?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you can't go wrong with Star Wars.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, or Matrix, or something like that.
Drama.
Yeah.
I would say probably more Revenge of the Sith than the older ones, just because the original trilogy for modern taste, is slightly slower than the pace that they would want. There's obviously not as much action. You're not going to see Yoda doing flips and shit, stuff like that. That might slow it down. But I mean, my mind also went to, like, The Dark Knight is such a perfect movie too. Like, and it's so pleasing. Yeah. My also went to like Skyfall for James Bond, just another visually beautiful movie. And my mind also went to maybe just some of the later not Roger Deakins, what is his name? Roger Moore. Some of the later Roger Moore James Bonds where they're just so ridiculous, like he's stepping out as a clown. I think that kind of adds to of it, as well as like the prop design and kind of they kind of lost that cool sexy factor of James Bond in that late Roger Moore era. So I think that's one of those, like, that would be a good selection of movies to see.
Yeah. I think I would actually really enjoy watching a few, like you had brought up, or Batman Begins, Dark Knight. I'd enjoy watching a couple Chris Nolan ones. I would love to see Interstellar on an IMAX screen, or Matrix even. After having just smoked a bowl or had a gummy or something, you know what I mean? You know what? When I used to smoke really consistently back when I was like 19, 20, I was absolutely obsessed with Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, and I was talking about this the other day. The charge to Gondor. The Gondor charge at the very end, where he's like running across it's the Rohan army, and you think when all hope is lost, you think that Gondor is going to fall out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Here comes the Rohirrim. Here comes the Rohan army, and just led by King Théoden, and he was like, "Spears, what was it? Spears will be I don't know. Spears will be thrown, shields will be splintered, something. I don't know. It's a great speech. I'm gonna completely butcher it, so I'm not gonna try to recap it. But then he does the run across. Everyone holds out their poles, and he runs across with the sword, and he goes, fight now, and just. I'm getting pumped talking about it. And then you hear the horns blow, and then slowly 10,000 horse cavalry come trotting. Slowly, they start to build up speed, and then the fucking ba-dun, ba-dun, da-dun. And when that crescendo happens...
Was that the music?
Something like
okay.
That. When that crescendo happens, you see the sun peek over the mountains, and then it's that wide that goes out above the entire field, and you see the entire army running, and like just the fear on the orcs' faces, and just when they hit the first wall, ooh, God, I'm getting pumped talking about it. Not even that movie, just that scene. Watching that scene stoned is always a lot of fun. Anyways, that's mine. Gary, I know you've actually never smoked before, but if you... I
would imagine something visually stimulating like 2001: A Space Odyssey would be... I
feel like you might be so fucking bored by that.
Well, not stoned watching it, I can tell you that you're bored, so it's a very slow movie.
Well, that doesn't necessarily make it better if you're stoned.
That's true. I don't know, something with just like a lot of lights and colors, like, I don't know, Commando.
An action movie would be
perfect. An action movie would be absolutely perfect to watch.
A Schwarzenegger one even better. So.
The what?
A Schwarzenegger one would be even better.
Yeah.
Blow off some steam, Bennett. I mean, how could you not love it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Predator?
Exactly.
I don't know, that might make you feel paranoid.
I get kind of scared from that, too. Predator scares me.
Stepping outside for a smoke and you're going to hear the AC turn on.
Oh, God!
Oh,
God! Who's there? Oh, my God. I feel like we've hit pretty much every single stoner movie that's worth watching. Would you guys say that's accurate? Or maybe we haven't. Maybe we haven't even done a podcast. Maybe we're all so stoned on life.
My gosh.
We're so high on life that we didn't even know we've been talking to a wall. Talking to ourselves for the last hour.
We didn't really officially talk about Pineapple Express.
Oh, we didn't? I thought y'all talked about it when I went to have a smoke.
Oh.
Well, let's jump in because it was our last one anyways. Yeah. Let's chat about Pineapple Express real quick. That was the last one that Matt, you had on your list of kind of the high points of stoner films. Take us through a little walk through of that film.
Yeah, maybe it just holds a special spot in my heart. Just because it came out roughly when I started smoking marijuana. And just to go see it in the theaters and be like part of that communal aspect where, everyone in there was just super friendly, enjoyed that aspect of it. But, it follows a story of two friends trying to figure out, is everyone jokes that their dealer's not their friend. They're just their drug dealer. But, what if he is his best friend? And, I love that they kind of explore that in a very childlike, stupid way. And just the fact that the fact that there's like, we gotta smash our phones, and Seth Rogen being very confident actually smashes his phone, and James Franco just chucks it in the fucking woods. Like, I feel like there's a lot of that humor that's so stupid that it just kind of works. And I mean, I love Danny McBride too. Danny McBride's fantastic in it as Red.
Oh God, yeah.
So it's just one of those, like, it's a fun film too. It's got a little bit more action than you're expecting too from a stoner comedy.
I know.
So that kind of, it plays it up to it as well. And it's just like a great ensemble. I mean, shout out Craig Robinson as well.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those films that I would suggest people watch around 420. Really enjoy it. Just soak it in if you haven't seen it, or, you know, add it into your rewatch files for 420.
It seemed like a very complicated joint that they made that was like the T-shaped one, I think.
Oh, yeah,
the cross J. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that, honestly.
Seemed very complicated.
I bet that was just a prop made for the movie that they actually could not. Maybe they were able to smoke it. I don't know. I don't know how you would do that.
I can attest. In my time in college, I've seen many people attempt the cross joint, and I've only seen it work about once. Okay. And I did hit it just to say I had hit one before. All right. But it was not very smooth. It was a hard drag. You know, I think it's just one of those visual things that it looks really cool. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's, you know, the guy that used to roll for Snoop for like $65,000 a year. I'm sure he could make something beautiful that you could smoke all day.
Yeah, I mean,
but you know, I think it's one of those, like, the average person that's just kind of rolling up to smoke. Why are you gonna make it across? So.
Right.
Snoop paid somebody $65,000 a year to roll his wacky tobacco.
That was all his job was, roll joints.
Was just to like make sure that Snoop had his Sin Spinach when he needed it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That really was his only job.
My goodness, okay.
Got paid a good amount of money for it, too.
Okay.
He stayed high all day. I don't know.
Yeah, you're hanging out with Snoop and all of his friends, smoking his weed.
I'd smoke a J with Snoop if offered, just saying.
Mr. Dog, your marijuana is ready.
Mr. Dog, your marijuana is ready, sir. It's in the doggy bowl.
Yes.
There's your doggy bag, too. I want to do a Mount Rushmore plus one really fast because I feel like this one won't take as long. So let's get a couple thrown up there. I'm going to start out. I would like to just throw Half Baked. I feel like that's a pretty easy one to toss up there. Any nays to that?
No, I'm in agreement with that.
I have no objections to that.
I have never seen it, so sounds good. I'm like, all right.
You both seem very enthusiastic about it.
All right, that's on. That's part.
I feel like Up in Smoke, it's got to be up there, and there's no argument to that as well.
Like you're right.
Yeah.
I feel like it has to be. Well, I don't think it's one of the best movies. It is just, I mean, it's quintessential, like it is, you know? Although it's quintessential, I would not put Reefer Madness up there. I don't think that it deserves a place.
Well, it's not a very good movie.
It does suck. Yeah, I think this should also be good stoner movies, you know?
Yeah.
I would say Pineapple Express probably belongs up there because it is that later form of stoner comedy. Mm-hmm. Like, it predates Ted as well.
And it's also a good comedy.
Classify Ted as a stoner film, then I think Pineapple Express is the best late example, the most recent example of that.
Yeah.
And from that late 2010s era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're not gonna find any. You're not gonna find any argument from me
because they don't even really make stoner films anymore.
Not really.
But,
yeah. No, you're right. They really don't. That's true. That might have been the last one, or one of the last ones.
Yeah, you know, the taboo of it is gone now too. Which
I mean, it's like zombie films. It's just not. It's not popular anymore.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, will it come back at some point? Maybe. Possible. I really don't know. You know, and I would have to throw Friday up here. Just because, I mean, the entire movie is based around them smoking that day. And
is that the movie that has Bye Felicia?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of good one-liners in that. Yeah. Bye Felicia.
Yeah.
And damn! Remember that one where the two guys are on the stoop? It's Ice Cube and Chris Tucker, and they go, damn! Because the girl's walking by, that's fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's from that, too.
Rest in peace, John Witherspoon,
that's
too.
Right,
where it's
man.
like, nobody go in there for 45 minutes. And just, like, I mean...
And the way he smacks his lips and, like, he's, like, licking his fingers and shit after he has his, like, sandwiches. Like, I'm like, that is so annoying, but it's so John Witherspoon. Like, that's okay. Like, he's that great. I actually remember him from the Wayans Brothers TV show on WGN back in like the late 90s. A terrible show, by the way, but I loved it as a kid. I thought it was hilarious. Did not last very long. But he was the dad of Marlon and Shawn Wayans in the series. So that was my first introduction to him. Okay, so half-baked, up and smoked, Pineapple Express Friday. What's bringing us home? What's bringing us home here? See, we threw Dazed and Confused in. We had Easy Rider was on there. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle was mentioned.
I feel like Harold and Kumar probably, because that journey. I mean, even the second one. I mean, the second one, pot is a very quintessential part of that film.
True.
It's the driving force. It's why they're looking for White Castle. True. It's why they end up going to Guantanamo Bay in the second film, because he's trying to smoke weed on a plane, and he's like, "It's a bong," and they're like, "Bomb." So I feel like it has done its impact on. I mean, hell, how much money did White Castle make off of that movie? I'm sure there was some kind of partnership in there for them, but I mean, all that free advertisement. I mean, there was people that were going to White Castle that normally wouldn't because they saw the film. So I feel like if you leave some kind of lasting cultural impact that allows you to be on the Mount Rushmore, and I would say Harold and Kumar kind of had that.
Yeah, and the quality of White Castle is definitely fit for stoners, I would say.
Yeah.
A place where you get a Crave case. They don't give you a bag of burgers. They give you a motherfucking case.
A case of fucking burgers. I would say you could make an argument for Dazed and Confused. You could make one for maybe like or Ted or Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Big Lebowski, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you that I'd say that Harold and Kumar can easily round out the top 5 for that. I mean, it is. I mean, God, man. I mean, it normalized Neil Patrick Harris for me. I hadn't really been watching. I guess this was before How I Met Your Mother started.
It was well after Doogie Howser.
It was. I didn't watch Doogie Howser a ton, and I also didn't know Neil Patrick Harris really as an adult. Doogie Howser, I mean, he was a kid when he was doing. He was an adolescent, right? Yeah, and teenager. So, but yeah, I would say that can round out the Mount Rushmore plus one.
I'm in agreement with that.
All right.
So light them up.
We have light them up, gentlemen. Smoke them if you got them. Half baked, up and smoke, Pineapple Express Friday. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Those are our recommendations for movies to go watch and the Mount Rushmore plus one of stoner films. Unfortunately, folks, we are all out of time for this evening. Guys, it's always a pleasure getting to hang out with you. It would be even better if we were all really stoned right now. Smoking out of a bong.
Don't do drugs
together.
Kids.
I mean, yeah, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad for you. No,
I would never.
I would never do that.
Once.
No, actually, I like how we do our shows the way they are. It's better that way. Guys, thanks so much for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, indeed.
We're excited to start season 4 with you all.
Yeah, season 4, amazing. For all of us here on I Don't Give a Flick, I'm Jonny.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Matt. And I'd like to leave parting wisdom. Remember, a friend with weed is a friend indeed, but the one that shares is the one that cares.
And I'm the ghost of Neil Riley. And we'll see you next week. Smoke him if you got him. Toke it up. I don't know. Cut me off, Gary, before I keep saying things to incriminate me. Thank you for tuning in to LeadFeather Productions' podcast of I Don't Give a Flick. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so that you never miss an episode. Podcasts are available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are hosted.